Hello student, today's topic is muscle physiology from your animal physiology subject. So in this chapter we have to study the structure of muscles, their molecular and chemical basis and their functions. So in this lecture we study the introductory part of the muscle physiology. We just study the introductory concept regarding to the muscle physiology. So basically, the muscle cells are excitable cells. These cells are excitable by the nervous system or stimulus or hormone which is provided by the cells. So these cells are excitable whenever they get the stimulus from environment or the excitable after the hormonal response. So these cells responsible for the transmit the action potential along their cell membrane. So this cell membrane, so these muscle cells transmit the action potential. So basically it gives this stimuli of extra give the sorry give the response to the external stimuli, which is also known as the action potential along their cell membrane. So they active after the stimulus or the hormonal response of the organism. So these cells convert the chemical energy into the mechanical response. So whatever response we give to the external environment through the muscle cells, these muscle cells are responsible for the conversion of the chemical energy into the mechanical response to the environmental stimulus. So let's see some physiological properties of muscle cell. First of all, that is irritability or excitability. Irritability means it is the ability to respond to a stimulus which may be delivered from the motor neurons or hormones. So basically the muscle cells having the ability to give response towards the stimulus. Okay, so this response may be the external environmental response or the organism's response. So this response which may deliver through the motor neurons or neurons, that is nervous system, gives the stimulus or the hormonal response which is provided by the organism's body. So the ability to give response to this stimulus, they may be the hormonal or neuronal, that is called as irritability or excitability. For example, for muscles to contract and do work, its cell must be stimulated, so most often by nerves supplying them. So the nervous impulse cause the release of neurotransmitter, so neurotransmitter, that is acetylcholine. So acetylcholine at the nerve muscle junction and the acetylcholine at the muscle nerve muscle junction, and the acetylcholine activate the receptor on the surface of the muscle cells. This result in the influx of the positively charged sodium into the muscle cell membrane, which in resting state is quite negatively charged. So, if the membrane becomes sufficiently depolarized, an action potential result in the muscle cell is excited from an electrochemical standpoint. So, these responses are given by the nervous muscle junction through the neurotransmitter, that is acetylcholine. So, acetylcholine present at the muscle and nervous membrane. So this depolarization of the muscle responsible for the give response to the external stimuli of environment, so which is known as the irritability or excitability. Second property of this muscle cell, that is contractibility or contractility, sorry, contractility. So in case of the skeletal muscle, contractibility means the ability of muscle cells to forcefully shorten. So for example, so in case skeletal muscle cells contract when stimulated by the neural input. So smooth muscle and cardiac muscle do not require this input. Basically, this contractibility mostly occur in the skeletal muscle. So when the muscle cells is excited, the impulse travel along the various membrane of the cells to its interior, where it is leads to the opening of the calcium channel. So in the contractility, basically which happen in the skeletal muscle occur due to the opening of the calcium channel, and this calcium channel flow towards and bind the protein molecule which is called as troponin. So troponin is present in the muscle cells, which leading to the sequential change in shape and position of associated protein. They may be the tropomyosin, myosin, actin. Okay, so the upshot of is this myosin bind to the small strands within the cells, which is called as myofilament. So in last semester you study the animal physiology and muscle physiology also. So the myofilament is the smallest part of the skeletal muscle. So within the cell which is called as myofilament, put forward, pull them along and carrying the cells to short or contract. Since this is the going on the stimulus simultaneously and in the coordinated function in many thousand of myocytes at the same time, the muscle as whole contract. So contractibility deals with the forcefully shorten of the muscle cells or maybe myocytes. So this is the property of muscle cell, but mostly this property of contractility mostly occur in the skeletal muscle, not in the smooth muscle or cardiac muscle. So this is the property of this skeletal muscle, that is contractility. It can be contract the muscle forcefully or shorten. So this ability of muscle cells to forcefully shorten, it is called as the contractility. Next one, that is extensibility. Extensibility means this refers to the ability of muscle tissue to lengthen when the contracting or provide efforts required to move the liver system, that is bones and joints, producing the coordinated movement. So this extensibility means we, whenever we throw the stone from by our hand, we have to extend our hand. So this ability of muscle tissue to lengthen. Okay, so this I put some efforts to require to move this system, that is bone and joints, which is coordinated movement, which is called as extensibility. So we can extend our muscles through the process by the coordinated movement, that is called as extensibility. Elasticity means, so elasticity is ability of muscle tissue. Okay, so it is ability of muscle tissue to return to its normal resting length. So whenever in extensibility we extend our muscle, elasticity means to get the normal resting length of the muscles. So once it has been stretched, it return to its normal resting length. So it is useful along with the that an elastic band. Okay, so that will always resume its resting shape after it's been stretched. So this property enable the muscle to prepare for a series of repeated contraction, which is normally required when the performing the exercise or sports. So basically this elasticity of muscle cell is required for the performance of the different kinds of activity of our daily activity. So there may be exercise or sport which is required the normal position of the muscle whenever they contract or relax. So whenever the muscle stretch, the position to their normal resting length, which is known as the elasticity. Okay, so these are the physiological properties of muscle cells which are required for the muscle physiology study. So these are mostly human body containing the three types of muscle, which may be known as the skeletal muscle, second one cardiac muscle, and third one that is smooth muscle. So these are the structures of the skeletal muscle fiber, which is also known as the multinucleated cells. Then this is the cardiac muscle fiber and this is the smooth muscle fiber. So let's see there are some differences. So basically three major types of muscles are skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. So the striation, that is strips on the skeletal and cardiac muscle are present. So they are prominent in skeletal muscle, less prominent in cardiac, and in on smooth muscle they are absent. So location of this skeletal muscle, that is begin and end in the tendons. So basically these skeletal muscles are present in the tendons. So at beginning and at the ends of in tendons, these skeletal muscles are present. So they may be our limbs, hands, or legs. So these skeletal muscles are present at the tendon. Cardiac muscle, so these muscles present at the heart. So our heart consisting the cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle are located in the hollow organs or eyes. Hollow organs means they may be the digestive system organ or urinary bladder system organ. So these organs are formed by the smooth types of muscles. So shape of the skeletal muscle is long, cylindrical and multinucleated, where cardiac muscles are cylindrical, branch and mono or binucleated. So first of all, that is skeletal muscles. So skeletal muscle having this skeletal muscle cell having this shape, that is they are long cylindrical shape and having the multinucleated cell. So this is the characteristics of the skeletal muscle, that is they are multinucleated cells. Secondly, that is cardiac cell. These are the cylindrical branch but mono and binucleated. So this is the characteristics of cardiac cell. They may be the mono or binucleated cells, where the smooth muscles are spindle shape and mononucleated cells. So anatomical function connection in skeletal muscle is absent because they are not the anatomical muscles. So basically, cardiac muscle present in the anatomical function because they are present at the heart muscle. So at the heart, so the heart containing the cardiac muscle, so they play the role in the anatomical functional connection in the intercalatal disc. So basically, anatomical function in smooth muscle are present because these smooth muscle located in the hollow organs may be the digestive system, excretory system or other system of organism. So these hollow organs having the smooth muscle function. So anatomical functions are present gives us the information regarding to the smooth muscle. The special features of the skeletal muscle, that is it make up the great mass of somatic musculature. So basically about 40% mass of the human body is about the skeletal muscle. This skeletal muscle about 40% mass are gained by the skeletal muscles. The second one, that is cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscles are the pacemaker cell, that is synexial function. Pacemaker cells means the cells that created their rhythmic impulse setting the pace for the blood pumping are called as pacemaker cells. These cells continuously work for the delivering the blood throughout the body and throughout the life cycle. So cardiac muscle are most important muscle among our cells. Smooth muscle are also the pacemaker cell because they have to deal with the different kinds of functions in our internal anatomical study. And last one, that is innervation. So innervation means skeletal muscle are involuntary control, means we can control these skeletal muscles by our movement, but cardiac muscle and smooth muscle are involuntary control. We cannot control the movement of this cardiac and smooth muscle. So heartbeats are not in our hand. We cannot stop the heart or any functions of the smooth muscle, maybe the respiration, the movement of the eyelids. So these muscles are involuntary. We cannot stop this the function of this muscle. But skeletal muscles are voluntary. We can move our hand by our will. So this voluntary control means are in our will. We can move this skeletal muscle as our will. But cardiac and smooth muscle are involuntary control. We cannot move the muscle, this cardiac and smooth muscle by our will. So they are involuntary in control. So these are the structures of the skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle and smooth muscle. These are the skeletal muscle, this is the cardiac muscle and these are the smooth muscle. So skeletal muscles are multinucleated. So these blue color are nucleus of the cells. So these cells is a multinucleated, where the cardiac cell are mononucleated or binucleated, where smooth muscles are mononucleated. So this is the tissue section of the cardiac cell, that is intercalated disc of the cardiac muscle. So this is the structure of the cardiac muscle. So in this figure you can see that this is the portion in the large view. So this containing the myosin, actin. So these red color strips are the myosin, this black color are the actin filament, this is the Z line, and this is the mitochondria and lysosomes. So these cells containing the myosin, actin and Z filament in the formation of cardiac muscles. So primary functions of these muscles is to generate the force or movement in response to physiological stimulus by the transducing chemical or electrical stimuli into the mechanical response. So the first of all, the function, most important functions of the muscles, that is to generate the force and movement. Whatever we function do, it's by our muscles. These muscles are responsible for the movement of the response to the physiological stimulus. They may be the external stimulus, anatomical stimulus, or physiological stimulus by transducing the chemicals and electrical stimuli. So this chemical or electrical stimuli means they may be the motor neurons or they may be the hormonal. So these stimuli are transferred into the mechanical response. So our muscle cells responsible for the formation of the mechanical response again for the physiological stimulus. So structure of skeletal muscle. So about 40% of body weight is made up of the skeletal muscle. The skeletal muscles having about the 40% weight of the body of organism. So locomotion are done by the skeletal muscle because our limbs, that is our hands and feet, containing the skeletal muscles. So the skeletal muscles are responsible for the movement or locomotion of the organism. So they mostly the striated or voluntary. Striated means the strips are present on the muscle cells. So these strips are mostly present on the skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle. So this is the another characteristics of this skeletal muscle and cardiac muscles, because the strips are present on these cells, but in smooth muscle the strips or striation is absent. And second one, that is voluntary. So this skeletal muscle can be, we can use by our will. So by our wish we can move our hands and limbs. So these our hands and limbs having the voluntary muscle, that is skeletal muscle, and the skeletal muscles are multinucleated. So in last figure we see the multinucleated cell structure of the skeletal muscle. So the skeletal muscle cells are multinucleated, they consisting the number of nucleus in the cell. So they are known as the skeletal muscle. So these three is the main characteristics of skeletal muscle, that is they are striated, voluntary and multinucleated cells. So this is the muscle fiber of the skeletal muscle, which consisting the sarcolemma, myofibrils. So this orange color, dark orange A band, this I band, and this is the black is Z band. So this is the nucleus. As we know, the skeletal muscle is multinucleated. So these purple color are nucleus. So these are the multinucleus cell. Also it consisting the terminal cisternae, transfer tubules, sarcoplasmic reticulum and mitochondria. So this is the muscle fiber of the skeletal muscle. Basically sarcolemma, which consisting the inner plasma membrane and outer collagenous layer. So, sarcolemma is a plasma membrane of muscle fiber. So, it is a collagenous layer like our plasma cells, plasma membrane. So, plasma membrane is the outer covering of the cell. Same as it is, sarcolemma is a plasma membrane, inner plasma membrane and outer collagenous layer of the muscle cells. So, in another cells we called as a plasma membrane. In muscle cells we called as the sarcolemma. Okay, so invagient at numerous points to form the T tubules. Basically, this is responsible for the formation of the T tubules, which is carry the action potential. Action potential is required for the movement of the muscles. So this action potential of the nerve cells and muscles are occur due to the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, because acetylcholine are present at the nerve and muscle junction, and the acetylcholine at the nerve and muscle junction and the acetylcholine activate the receptor on the surface of the muscle cells, which can result in the influx of positively charged sodium ions and the movement of the cell. So this sarcoma consisting the action potential, because the neurotransmitter acetylcholine are present at the plasma membrane of cell. Second one, that is sarcoplasma. Sarcoplasma consisting the myofibrils. Myofibrils are the smallest part of the muscle cells. So it sarcoplasm consisting the myofibrils. So in this figure you can see that the tubules around the myofibrils. So these smalls are the myofibrils. So numerous mitochondria lying parallel to the myofibrils. So basically there are many mitochondria are present in the muscle cells. Mitochondria, as we know, it is a powerhouse of energy, and muscle cells require the more energy for the movement and the locomotion of the organism, so that the numerous mitochondria lying parallel to the myofibrils, which is a part of the muscle cells, for the provide the energy for the movement of the muscles. Next one, that is sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcoplasmic reticulum is a L tubules are present in the muscle cells, and it is the site where the storage of calcium ions are present. So basically, as we know, the sarcoplasmic reticulum, that is endoplasmic reticulum and sarcoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum are present in the normal cells, which function for the storage of the protein and the RNA. Same as it is in muscle cell, it is called as sarcoplasmic reticulum, and which is the site of the calcium ion. Calcium ions are required for the calcium channel, because for the contractility means it is the ability of muscle cell for forcefully shorten. So this sarcoplasmic reticulum consisting the storage of calcium ions, and the polarization and depolarization of the muscle cells required the ions, and so that the sarcoplasmic reticulum consisting the storage of calcium ion, because these calcium ions flow towards and bind to the protein molecules, which is called as troponin, leading to the sequential change in shape and position of associated protein, that is tropomyosin, myosin, actin, which is a protein, which is are the associated protein of the muscle cells. So this calcium is required for the movement of the muscles. So this is the structure of the skeletal muscle. You can see that this is the bone, which so this is the structure of skeletal muscle. In this skeletal muscle you can see that this is the muscle, which is also the, so this is the tendon, and this is epimyelum, sorry, epimysium, and this is the perimysium. These are the blood vessel, and this is the muscle fiber. This is endomysium, and this is fasciculus. So this muscle, skeletal muscle, divided into fasciculus, muscle fibers, myofibrils, and myofilaments. Myofilaments is the smallest part of this skeletal muscles. So basically these fibers having the diameter about 10 to 18 micron in diameter each, which is composed of the thousands of myofibrils. So there are thousands number of the myofibrils are present in the muscles fiber. So basically each myofibril is in turn made up of the myofilament. So these myofibrils are made up of the myofilament. So myofilament consisting the two types of protein, that is contractile and modulatory protein. So contractile protein consisting the myosin second and actins, where modulatory containing the tropomyosin and troponin. So myofilament is made up of the myosin second, actin, tropomyosin and troponin protein. So and myofibril is made up of the myofilament and myofibril, and the bunch of the myofibril form the muscle fiber. So in this figure you can see that this is the muscle fiber, and the number of muscle fiber form the fascicle, and the number of fascicle form the epimysium, that is structure of the skeletal muscle. So this is the sarcomere, that is the filament of the muscle cell. So in this figure you can see that this is the muscle, and this is the part of the muscle, that is fasciculus, which consisting the number of fibers. So this number of muscles fiber consisting the number of myofibrils. Though this number of myofibril consisting the sarcomere. So this sarcomere is made up of the I band, H band and the actin filament, also the M line and myosin protein. So these all the, that is the I band, H band and Z line and M line. This is the myosin and this is the actin. So all these proteins are required for the formation of the sarcomere, and sarcomere, so number of sarcomere form the myofibril, where the number of myofibril form the muscle fiber and number of muscle fiber form the fasciculus, which form the muscle of organism's body. So this is the structure of the muscle fiber, that is myofibril. So in this figure you can see that this blue color line, zigzag line, is demonstrate the Z line of muscle fiber, where this straight line denote the M band, where these two bands, the part of this two band show the I band, this is the H band, and this two made the A band, where all these form the sarcomere, and this is the myofibril, which is part of the muscle cell. So this is the one myofibril and this is part, okay. So this total part of the one sarcomere, which consisting the Z line, M band, I band, H zone, A band and sarcomere. So many sarcomere form the myofibrils. So this is the figure of muscle fiber. So in this figure you can see that this is the muscle fiber, which consisting the myofibrils. So myofibrils are made up of the sarcomere. So this is the structure of the sarcomere, which consisting the I band and A band and Z line. So this Z line bound the I band and A band. So basically there are two types of filaments are present, that is thick filament, which is made up of the myosin, or also known as the myosin, and thin filament, which is also known as the actin filament. So in light microscopic structure of the filament you can see that this is the structure of the muscle fiber. So this muscle fiber consisting the cross striation due to the alternate dark and light band. So this cross striation due to the light and dark band. So these are the dark and light band. So this cross striation, okay, I previously I said that the striated skeletal muscles are the striated muscle, and this striation occur due to the alternate dark and light band which is present in the sarcomere. So this is the structure of the sarcomere, which consisting of the Z membrane, M line, and the Z line. So the light band, that is, which is also known as the isotropic band. So these are the light band, which is also known as the isotropic band or I band, which is the thin filament of the muscle fiber, where dark band is called as the anisotropic band, that is A band. So this is the A band. So these are the dark band. So this form the cross striation, and this is the characteristics of the skeletal muscle, that is striation are present on the skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle. H zone is a lighter zone which is present in the A band. So this zone is known as the H zone, where Z line is present in the center of the I band. So basically in I band, which is the light band of the muscle, which is also known as isotropic band, the Z line are present in the center of the I band, where M band is present in the middle line or center line of the A band, which is also known as the anisotropic band. So these sarcomere are present between the two Z line, that is this one Z line and this second Z line form the one sarcomere, that is basic unit of the muscle. So many sarcomere form the myofibril, then myofibril form the muscle fibers. So in this figure you can see that this is the sarcomere, which consisting the Z line, and this is the second Z line. So in between this is the sarcomere, which is form of the A band. So these are the thick filament and these are the thin filament. Thick filament are made up of the myosin, where the thin filament are formed by the actin filament. So in this figure you can see that this is the actin filament, which is thin filament, and this is the myosin, which is the thick filament. This is Z line and this is A line. So this is the figure of the relax. Whenever our muscles are relaxed, this is the structure of the muscle cell, where whenever they contract they close together. So this formed by the composition of actin and myosin filament. So this actin and myosin, also another proteins are also present in the muscle, that is tropomyosin, troponin, and actin. These muscles these muscle proteins are required for the formation of the muscle fibers. So ultrastructure of this muscle fiber. So let's see the ultrastructure of the muscle fiber. So whenever this sarcomere present, this myofilament consisting two filament, that is thick and thin filament, where thick filament is made up of the myosin, which is about 10 to 14 nanometer wide and 1.6 micrometer long. About 1500 of each myofibril consisting the myosin. So myosin filament made up of around 200 molecule of myosin. So these myosin filament are made up of around 200 molecules of myosin. And myosin molecules, okay, what is meant by the myosin molecules? The myosin molecule is a compound of the 6 polypeptide chain. So this is the molecular level of the muscles. So these myosin molecules are composed of the 6 polypeptide chain, which are the 2 heavy chains and 4 light chain. Remember, this myosin molecule is composed of the 6 polypeptide chain, where 2 are the heavy chains and 4 are the light chain. So it also consisting the a tail, an arm, and 2 globular head. So these arm and head form the cross between two hinges. So head has the site for the ATP and actin binding. So this myosin molecule consisting the a tail, arm, and 2 globular heads. This head site having the ATP binding site. Whenever the polarization and depolarization occur during the movement of the muscle cell, these ATP sites bind towards the another cell myosin molecule of the muscle, and for the actin binding are also present. So in this figure you can see that this is the thick filament of myosin which consisting the different proteins. So this is the actin binding which consisting the two globular head. Myosin which consisting the two globular head, which is made up of the 6 polypeptide chain where 2 chains are the heavy chain and 4 chains are the light chain. Also it consisting the tail and also two globular head region. So these two globular head region are the binding site for the ATP and actin. So this is the binding site of the ATP and actin filament of the muscle fiber. So this is the single thick filament consisting the many myosin molecules. So in this figure you can see that this is the single thick filament of the myosin. So it containing the many myosin molecules. So one myosin filament is made up of the 200 myosin molecules. So shape of these single myosin molecules which consisting the myosin tail and two myosin globular head, which is also known as the cross bridge of the myosin filament. So part of this thin filament which consisting the actin, troponin and tropomyosin. So this single myosin molecule consisting the three types of protein, that is actin protein, troponin and tropomyosin. So first of all, that is actin filament. No, sorry, second filament, that is actin filament. It is about 7 nanometer wide and 1 micrometer long, extended on both sides of Z line. It is made up of the F actin forms and double helix, which is made up of the 300 G actin molecules. So G actin has the active site for interaction with the myosin head. Basically these actin monomer having the site of actin molecules binding site. So whenever we see this myosin head bind to the actin filament of muscle fiber. So this actin filament consisting the binding site for the myosin head. So this actin filament is made up of the tropomyosin and troponin, which consisting the tropomyosin, which is about 40 nanometer length, and molecular weight of this tropomyosin about 17,000 molecular weight. So with this tropomyosin wrap around the actin helix and cover the active site in resting phase. So basically this tropomyosin wrap around the actin helix, and whenever the muscles are at the resting phase, it cover the active site of actin filament where it bind to the myosin head. Troponin is made up of the three protein of subunit, that is troponin 1, troponin C and troponin T. So these troponin are part of the actin filament. So in this figure you can see that the actin filament, which is made up of the three protein, that is tropomyosin, troponin and actin filament. So this cross bridge binding is covered by the tropomyosin whenever it at the resting phase. So this troponin having the calcium binding site. This calcium is required for the ion flow channels towards the bind the protein molecules, which called as the troponin. So troponin bind to the calcium binding site, which lead to the sequential change in shape and position of associated protein, that is tropomyosin and myosin and actin. So during the movement of the muscles, these calciums are required for the stimulation of the sequential change of the muscles. So this is the structure of the actin filament, which consisting the troponin and tropomyosin protein. So this troponin consisting the three types of protein, that is troponin T, troponin C and troponin I, and this is the tropomyosin, which is cross over the actin filament during the resting potential. So tropomyosin sorry tropo tropo tropomyosin, blocking the myosin binding site during the resting phase. So this is the actin filament and this is the tropomyosin. This tropomyosin cover or block the myosin binding site of the actin, where the myosin head cannot bind to the actin filament, which is covered by the tropomyosin. And whenever the calcium bind to this tropomyosin filament, it release from the actin filament. So myosin binding site exposed by the calcium mediated tropomyosin movement. So other proteins are also essential for the in the muscle formation, that is actinin which bind to the actin to this headline, desminin which bind to this headline to the plasma membrane of muscle fiber, tintin which connect this headline to M line and provide the scaffolding of the sarcomere and provide the elasticity. So titin is responsible for the provide the elasticity of the muscles of skeletal muscle. And last one, that is dystrophin. So dystrophin, dystroglycan and sarcoglan. So these are the also other proteins which are essential for the movement of the muscles in the organism's body. So this is the introductory part of the muscle physiology. So in this figure we can in this lecture we study the all the structures of the muscle fiber, that is skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle and the smooth muscle. So and in detail we study the skeletal muscle, which consisting the two types of filament, that is thick filament and thin filament, where thick filament is known as the myosin filament, where thin filament is known as the actin filament. And also we study their proteins which useful for the movement of the muscles. So that is for today. Thank you.